We are on. So welcome everybody to CRS202, Semester 1, 2018. Today's date is 19th of March 2018. It's now 8 o'clock in Sydney, 8 p.m. And this is our first Zoom for CRS202. And it's the first time that CRS202 has been run. Yes, and it's been modelled on EDU 502 in the Masters, which was one subject, and it's now become two in CRS 202, 302. And Stephen Brinton and I are sharing work on this subject. So, I would love, if you don't mind, I would just love to talk about geography for 5 minutes, because that's the emphasis of 202, CRS 202. And then I'd like to give a public video apology for the fact that you were all starting off on news forums which are not actually part of the assessment. So sorry about that. It hasn't done you any harm, I'm sure. So let me just talk about geography for a minute. Now, I've been a geography teacher since 1975. So I've got a few years of experience of teaching geography, albeit to high school mostly, but I've done some primary school in Australia. And I would love to say to you that geography is a bit like a language. You would be advised to try and get into the mind of a geographer if you're not a geographer already. I would love for you to, in this course, think geographically. Sometimes I say to people who've been born in other countries and they come to Australia and I say, well, which way do you find yourself thinking? Do you think in your mother tongue or do you think in English? Mm-hmm. And they usually can't say, the ones I've talked to recently, they just don't really know. And then I say, which way do you dream? Do you dream in your mother tongue or do you dream in English? And then one bloke said to me, well, I just dream in pictures. I don't dream in words at all. Okay. Well, they're pictures for you. I would love you to think that there is a way of geographically thinking and dreaming, if you like. And if I could use the second or the major assignment as an illustration of it. So I'll just briefly touch down there. That's the major assignment, 40%, due on 3rd of June. It actually asks you to identify a local planning issue. Now, as soon as you got that in your head, a local planning issue, then the geographer in you should start to think, wow. What are the things that need to come to bear on this issue? It's not just sociology, it's not just town planning, it's not just the economy, it's not just culture, it's all of those things and more. And particularly, I would love to say from a Christian, it's what's best for God's will. You know, what's best for this environment, what is best for God's people, what is best for the gospel. And why not? And if you could think through all the different ways of approaching a local issue, which is nice and small and discreet, which is fantastic for year 5 and 6 upper primary, it's really great for them to associate with, because they walk amongst it, they see it, they hear their parents talk about it, they hear, if they've got their ears tuned, the media talk about it. What's best? I mean, it could be a recreation ground being planned in a housing estate. It could be that size project. And what sort of impact is that going to have? Traffic, parking? Is there going to be a danger to the pedestrians? What's it going to do to the values of the land? And so it goes on and on and on. So enough of me rambling. I would love for you to, in this subject, catch what is the heart of a geographer, and to go, and when you have to teach topics which are geography related, you just, you take off with, this could be endless. This is never going to end. I'm never going to run out of material, because there's always some issue that hits geography. You know, there is no end to the syllabus, frankly. You can look at, you know, the syllabus, but it just goes on and on and on for a whole lifetime. And I would love to think that we're teaching kids to be responsible citizens and people who will respect and cherish each other and their environment. That's my introduction. And I'm happy to go down other boroughs, but let me just hear from you, and have I apologized enough for the stuff up at the beginning of this semester?
I haven't had a chance to look at the readings on Moodle yet, other than the forum. So I'm assuming there's plenty of material there to help us with the assessments and to help us get an idea of how to write.
Yeah, there is. There's plenty on Moodle. I would argue that those 10 readings, titled the weekly readings but not assessed, I would say they would give you a good overview of some of the issues, and it would certainly paint the landscape for you. I particularly love the first one, the Brian Hill, where he talks about values education, which arguably is the superb direct link with a Christian worldview. Another thing to do is go to What If Learning. Can I see a nod if you've been to What If Learning, the website? I see that nod. Miguel, no, he's shaking his head. Okay. You go to What If Learning, one word. It's an English website that gives you curriculum ideas from a Christian worldview. Absolutely superb. Rita, have you seen that one?
No, I'm just making a note of it now, so I can.
What If Learning is great. But seriously, when you get to each of the essays, 40%, 30%, and then the lesson plan. We will talk about them. We'll unpack them. Go to EBSCO. Go to the syllabus documents. I mean, let me just land a little bit briefly on the minor. Demonstrate with examples how it is influenced by current philosophies of history and geography. In other words, get to understand what it's saying history there, but focus on the geography. What is the current philosophies of geography? Go into the syllabus document, critique it from a Christian worldview. Australian curriculum, you know, that's Canberra. That's the F, they call it the F to 6/8 history geography strand, and the NESA one, which is Sydney history geography, but focus on up to stage 3. Examine the underlying worldview of these syllabuses. So as you become familiar with those documents, and you know, you haven't got to learn them, but just walk around them and see what's in them and what isn't in them, and then you'll really appreciate what is the underlying philosophy or worldview of those syllabuses.
Jim, okay, so just on that assessment that's due at the end of April, so you said that we can concentrate on one stage 3?
Well, it's saying you can reference anywhere in those syllabuses.
All right.
To pick up what you're picking out of the minor assignment is what's geography. You can mention history, but as I say, the idea of CRS203 is to focus on geography. Can you see where this is being written from? So I would argue before you do that, have a a good scoot around the Moodle page for what is geography.
Yes.
The Helena Coolman 2014 video. I think that's a super place to start. That's right at the top of Moodle if you haven't seen that yet. The youngster, I think 16, went into a uni to try and work out what was geography. I mean, you may have similar questions. What's geography?
Yeah.
Well, play that through a few times and then you'll begin to think, okay, it's this, okay. And then once you've got the idea of what geography is, then go and dabble in the Canberra syllabus and the Sydney one and see if you can determine what are the underlying philosophies that you see there. Now, there's no right and wrong answer. It's just I'm asking you to try and test the temperature of those syllabi. What do you see coming through? Because you'll see a difference between Sydney and Canberra for sure.
Right.
And you'll see a difference between maybe what you think you would like to see in geography and what isn't. Why is it not there?
Can I ask a question, Jim?
Sure.
Sorry, I think maybe just being out of Australia, I'm not aware of it. But are we not on national curriculum? Why are you saying, like, what's the difference between Sydney and Canberra?
Okay. The phrase there, Australian curriculum, humanities and social science, is the national curriculum. But each state has to take that and apply it, and they can't help themselves. They put a little colour on it.
Sure.
And they package it, and this might sound a little cynical, it probably is. They have to justify their existence. And particularly New South Wales have to improve on the national curriculum.
Okay, so the national curriculum for New South Wales.
Yeah, it's the same, but you'll see subtle differences. And one of them, not so subtle difference, is that the one from Canberra, the national, calls itself a curriculum, whereas Sydney, the NESA, calls itself a syllabus. Now, in my book, they're both syllabi, and they just set out to confuse us by calling them one a curriculum and one a syllabus. To me, a curriculum is what a school sets up for its students, for its teachers. That's their curriculum. And they base it on the syllabus that they have to abide by in order to get accreditation.
Okay. Is there a right and a wrong one for us to be looking at? You're just saying we should look at both if we're referencing one or the...
just look at both. The whole point, I think, of the minor assignment is to get you finding your way around these documents. And as you do, you'll get a sense of the worldview. That's the idea of this assignment.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the third part, explain what informs your own personal philosophy. So I think I had a question today about, yes, from another student who's not here, about prerequisite for a subject. And one of the prerequisites was EDU 101 or 401. And I said, well, some people actually find themselves doing that concurrently with that. And it's not a bad deal. That's fine, because the whole idea of 101, 401 focuses you on your philosophy. So it's nice that this question here in April is driving you to look at your own philosophy as well. So what you gain from here, although you can't cut and paste and stick it into another assignment, at least it can inform your thinking.
That's good.
Okay. Miguel.
Yes.
How are you traveling?
Yeah, well, thank you. I agree with what you were saying, that once we get our head around these different curriculums and have our own dynamic philosophy as well, it's just a good way to actually see how we're gauging where we're at in our thinking, as opposed to the way we're supposed to actually implement from the government curriculums as well, and how to meet those outcomes in schools, but then have that Christian sort of worldview undergirding all of that, and to see how to make that possible, you have to actually look at the different sort of aspects. So that's what I'm finding, yeah, from what you're saying.
You'll find that the what-if learning, which overtly comes from a Christian worldview, but it is down to earth. You know, you plug in the age of the children, you make it, this is real material that you can take and put into a lesson plan. So the whole point of doing CRS202 is that you are equipped to teach geography in a primary school. And you're doing so from a position of confidence, not of, I'm just ticking the boxes, and I've got to teach you this, but I don't know why I'm teaching it. But I'll keep on teaching it. So I'd like you to relate it to yourself. So, and I think, and I'm obviously very biased, I think it's, of all subjects, it's the one where children can relate to it so easily. All you have to do is touch the blue touch paper of their lives, and you're off. You've got a ready-made context, and as you'll see in the major assignment, it's a ready-made issue. It's going to be fun, and it'll be very different, and each one of you will do a very different project, I'm sure. That's absolutely fine and exciting. Okay. Anything else, burning issues, or I'll keep chatting about the Moodle page? Okay.
It's three assessments all up, isn't there, Jim?
Yeah. Sorry?
There's 3 assessments all up.
Yes. The last one is lesson plan sequence for 30%, due 10th of June. Now, let me say this right up front. The point of doing this is so that you've got practice at doing lesson plans, so that when you graduate, you've got a portfolio of material, and when you're asked to do lesson plans at your school, oh yeah, I've got some. Here you go. You like these? Yeah. I enjoy doing those. And when you go into school, I would like to think that you go with potentially 4 years worth of work behind you. You're not a green newbie, you're actually equipped. There's no point, in my view, when you're doing essays purely intellectually for no purpose. This is real stuff. You've got to do lesson plans in life, so do them and keep them safe. Refine them, of course. Now, do you all know about the APSTs? Do I see a nod?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Carolyn? Not so sure.
No, so sorry.
At the end of each of the assignments, you see
I do.
Graduate stage 1.1.1, 1.2.1.
Yes,
all those
sorry.
things. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So
Wasn't sure.
go to the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers website. Get totally okay navigating around the website. And these, if you go to the official big one of the APSTs, you'll find examples of where each of these items are being taught. And the point is, if you want to know, am I going to get a good mark for this, then you should be ticking those boxes. They're the outcomes that you, above all, that you should be ticking. The other thing, of course, to do is go to the rubrics at the end of the subject outline. And can I emphasize again, I know the subject outline talks about weeks. Well, education doesn't talk about weeks, it only talks about dates. The reason being that our dates, our weeks don't coincide with our Crucis weeks, because historically we put as many intensives as we could on school holidays so that teachers who were just wanting to complete their studies could come in and do an intensive in their holidays. And that's why our weeks got all out of whack with the whole AC weeks. And it just became so much easier to specify a deadline being Sunday night at 2300 minutes Australian Eastern Standard Time. But nobody's going to bother about a little bit of leeway, Carolyn. It's about to do with, that's going to be fine. Don't stress.
Thank you.
We've had people in Perth, and they get 2 hours longer than everyone else. I'm sure they've lost it at the other end.
That's it.
So lesson plans, yeah, that's what we're aiming at, so that you can go away and do some nice, confident lesson plan sequence at the end. Now, anything else? Issues I would, religion, the big religion fact sheet. If you look at what's in the syllabus for geography, you'll find tucked away, you'll get religions, religious studies. Now, if I were you, I would take that with a great thank you. And depending on what school context you're in, it's really great to weave in faith and purpose and calling into geography. I think it fits very nicely. You'll see there's a link there to Fathers Online, August 2011. A friend of mine from Wollongong got that going. That particular issue really highlights geography. So you will see when you dip in there. Okay, anything else? And I'll just give you opportunity to ask. Got 5 minutes, folks.
I think I've pretty much covered everything.
You happy? Now,
Yeah.
If you go down through the website, the Moodle, sorry, topic 5. Now, these PowerPoints, you can see there are 5 of them. I'm going to be, I know they're labeled EDU 502, but it's very similar material that you need for CRS202. So I'll be using that as the raw material for our studies, which is April, isn't it?
Yes.
April the 16th.
20th. Yeah.
16th to 20th. Yeah. So being so late, I suppose I'm thinking aloud. Actually, the minor assignment is only 1 week after that.
Yeah.
So I would encourage all of you and those watching to really focus on the minor assignment, so that arguably by the end of it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that you're not going out of the intensive with that to do and the major and the lesson plans. I would hope that we can have knocked off the minor assignment really during that week. I'll give you a bit of time if you're on the intensive, but certainly give that a lot more attention on the intensive, and hopefully it can be in the bag by then. I don't see why that should not be doable. Okay, and it's only 1,700 words. It's not big deal. Not big deal, really. Okay, anything else on geography, on assignments, on where we're going?
No.
Pretty good. Thank you.
All happy?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, watch this space, and by all means, You know the deal. Oh, let me repeat the deal. Communication. On Moodle, you don't use the messenger. If you've got a question about any of the assignments that's going to be relevant to everybody, stick it on the news forum. If it's about you and it's a personal issue, stick it on an email. If I don't respond to that one in a timely manner, then please scream at Stephen Brinton, who's program director, and he can kick me into action. I'll say, what are you doing, Jim? Why haven't you answered so-and-so? And if all else fails, you can phone the college, of course, and try and get through. But I would love that to be the third in the line. I'm trying to juggle dozens of students across the country, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Really.
Yeah.
And it's a great challenge because we've got more students than we've ever had. And so yeah, try and look after me. I don't want to burn out.
For sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.